Good morning, St. Philip's family. It is a great joy to come to you today to talk about another one of the great hymns of the church. Today we are going to be looking at that great hymn, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. This is an old hymn that was first published in 1707, and it was written by a man named Isaac Watts. Isaac Watts was a prodigy who was born in Southampton, England in 1674, and at an early age, even by the age of 4, he was learning Latin, and he was proficient in Latin, Greek, and Hebrew as a young man. And as the son of a minister, he grew up hearing the gospel regularly and hearing church singing. And church singing during this particular period in England was mostly confined to singing of the Psalms. And Watts felt that there was more that could be done. And when he was 18, his father challenged him to stop complaining about it and to do something about it. And so the result of that is that Isaac Watts became perhaps the most prolific hymn writer in the history of England. He is known to have written at least 750 hymns, which are widely used even today, and he is memorialized in Westminster Abbey for his great contribution as a result of that. So part of the reason that we still sing his hymns is because they are loaded with really good theology, and the one we're going to talk about today is no exception. When I Survey the Wondrous Cross is a remarkable hymn in a lot of ways, particularly because it is so intensely personal. It talks about the believer's relationship with Jesus Christ, and it is focused on Christ's work on the cross, but in a deeply personal way in an age where most hymns were more impersonal. So it starts right off with that, when I survey the wondrous cross, the whole idea that we, even though we are removed in time from Jesus' crucifixion, it is still important for us to contemplate it. So this particular hymn is often sung to the tune Rockingham, which has its own interesting history. Mr. Miller, who wrote that hymn, ran away from home as a child because of his deep desire to become a musician. And he ran away to become a flutist in the orchestra that was organized by George Frederick Handel. So there's a whole nother story there that we won't go into today. But When I Survey the Wondrous Cross is one of the most beloved hymns in the English language. The great English poet Matthew Arnold said that he thought this was the finest hymn that there was in the English language. And I would commend it to you for your contemplation, because the theological truth in it is so rich that it is something that is a great aid to firing our hearts with praise and wonder. So just to look briefly at the words of the hymn, the first stanza, When I survey the wondrous cross, on which the Prince of Glory died, my richest gain I count but loss, and pour contempt on all my pride. It is essentially reminding us that compared to Jesus and Jesus' death on the cross, all of the things that we hold as valuable in this world pale in significance. And then the next stanza, forbid it, Lord, that I should boast, save in the death of Christ my God, all the vain things that charm me most, I sacrifice them to his blood. It's a great reminder that all the things that charm us, the things that lead us away from God and lead us to focusing on this world and its alluring charms, these things we should sacrifice, because when we see Christ, and as we begin to understand the depth of his love for us, we are compelled ourselves to sacrifice. There are all sorts of interesting word plays here in this hymn, but one of the ones that is so beautiful in this stanza is that, of course, Christ is the one who is the sacrifice, and yet because of his sacrifice, we are called to sacrifice the vain things that charm us because of what he's done. And then the next stanza focuses on the cross itself. See from his head, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love flow mingled down. Did e'er such love and sorrow meet, or thorns compose so rich a crown? And this brings us right back to the gospel accounts of Jesus' crucifixion, where he is wounded by the nails, he's wounded by the spear in his side, he's wounded by the crown of thorns on his head. And it is a reminder to us of Jesus' sorrow for our sins and his deep love for mankind that leads him to this incredible gift of himself on the cross to accomplish our salvation. And then the last stanza, were the whole realm of nature mine, that were an offering far too small. Love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. And what he's saying here is that Jesus' death on the cross demands a response. It is not something that we can just look at and say, oh, well, that happened, and we don't think about its relevance for us. The fact that it happened, the unsolicited self-sacrifice, the beautiful self-giving love of Jesus on the cross is put in front of our eyes by this hymn, and it reminds us that we are to give our all, to give our hearts to Christ because of his great love for us. That sorrow and that love is aimed at each one of us as individuals. That's why this hymn is written in the first person, that it makes a difference, that our relationship with Christ is only possible because of that woundedness in him, that sorrow and love that flow mingled down. And our response should be joy and praise. Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were an offering far too small. I pray that God will bless you as you contemplate the wonderful truth of Jesus' love for you. God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.